Okay, this has been a bit of an odd one. But anywho, last week I was supposed to went to go challenge, then looked at the rights of succession. Then I realized something. Majesty would not have put me in a position. Well, not just realized, but I heard I understood why a piece of the puzzle was put into play that King Charles is trying to not have to be shown. And then the pieces of that, how then more so, even so, overthrows Parliament if he doesn't, if they allow him to go through with that. Not, and I believe King Charles realizes that because the whole rights of succession. Well, how would Her Majesty get rid of your rights of succession? And then it's like, oh yeah, yeah. I have no idea what it is. Like I said, I just assumed Majesty just did a homdy domdy, don't kill that dude, which obviously that wasn't was never part of his plan. But unfortunately, as he has realized, the whole system is actually designed quite well. It is in his selfish best interest, and he still doesn't, but plays it right, uses it responsibly. It's actually far more powerful than what he was planning on doing, which is just being a tyrant. Or it can be both, but call it capitalism. But since it's going into the Crown Estates, which is a quasi public property, it goes back into his treasury. Therefore, it's helping whatever it created is helping this estate itself, therefore creating more money back into the coffers for more things to create higher returns. Yeah, and also being not having to be beholden, while at the same time being beholden to Parliament, but not having to be beholden at the exact same time. But that leaves a big problem. You see, is now what is it at me? And my cut seems to be substantial, quite yes, but comparatively quite small. It is within standard works, and there's the importance of the whole standard being normal is one of the most important parts. See, the reason the Democratic Party needs to pay me 1.2 million is Reverend Warnock. One, they've used my system, especially this whole system cycle. Use my name, use my theory, the mind, my life's work. It is a statement of existence. And then also from a more strategic position, it is stating that not the working person, the working man, is in control of the Democratic Party, not the gangs and the cartels. And we've seen what's being done in Mexico and Mexican cartels, and that association. Unfortunately, hip hop has made the retail arm of the cartels is basically gangs, and by having the if the since Jay Z and Dre and all of those gentlemen are representative of these gangs in one form or fashion, they're essentially saying, Democratic Party is saying, that these gangs control the Democratic Party, which is the retail arm of the Mexican drug cartels. And we see what they have done to Mexico. So by paying me, you're saying the working person, the person who has never been affiliated with such things, the average citizen controls the Democratic Party. Because the danger of allowing, granted, Jay Z's done great work, all hip hop's done great work, but in the plane of power, what that represents, that it's only the criminals, not the ones who are able to figure out to get past the game. And even if they did it horribly, they still played the game and got around. An impossible game to play. It might not have always looked pretty, but they got around the impossible game to play. 1.2 million is for spending, especially the amount that was spent, is absolutely crazy. Is nothing compared to what was spent. And but the main thing is what goes matters more so is within only have 2 more weeks and the end of this Congress. If you go there without payment, it is saying I'm going to get what is supposed to. I am. I'm too weak to go. It's. It's a really. It's yeah. It's a statement that to the Republicans and to the rest of America, the big gangbangers control the Democratic Party. Why should we put our safety, economic and everything else safety, into their hands? That's the it's those are the thieves guarding the hen house. No, that's what they're doing. So that way, when things go wrong, they can just blame Black America, even more so, and then stretch everything out and take everything. It's a setup. It's a brilliant, beautiful setup. The gangbangers are walking right into it, talking about the love of the streets. That's bullshit. They hate that life. And if they say that they do, they truly do. Some, yes, they're just lost and whatever. But most don't. Most really would just want to just go to a job, be boring, come home, smack the old lady on the butt. Maybe you make it up super. But hey, put in a 40, go on a vacation, raise their kids to do amazing things. They want the same things. But they lost that because they get them when they're so young. And then destroy whole neighborhoods. Now it's taken over a whole culture, subset of the culture, and then since that's squeezed, now it's going to start floating into the other parts of the culture. That's the whole culture war. That's why getting the white nationalists all up in their arms because I know that's the game. They've been playing the same game for generations. Black folks don't fall for it anymore. What do they have? Oh, it comes down to a personality behavioral trait that has nothing to do with racism because we're all technically kind of racist anyways, but this particular behavior trait has to externalize itself in order for itself to exist. And racism just happens to be a convenient way of doing it because it's very easy. But when it's because it's right there, visual, one of the strongest emotes So it breaks down the idea of, okay, even if you culturally, which is a behavior set for living within a certain, there are some universals. If you remove that point of universals, then you can universally, then this behavior set can universally externalize all of its negativity in a straw man fashion. Remove that, and that behavior set has no strength and it starts to crumble. It'll still figure out another way of doing it, which is human nature, but it's not just based off of one thing where everything can be poured. Every type of hatred can be poured into that strong person vessel. But unfortunately, as a culture, and how the the 1% have divided the country into the right and left, and how it's playing the same tune to both, and both of the weirdos on the both edges are trying to rip apart the entire country. But that's the idea: is to rip apart the entire country and then replace it with an oligarchy, a corporate oligarchy. And to do so, they have to tear apart both the throne of England and shred the Constitution of the United States, which also means tearing apart the EU, Commonwealth of Nations. Putin has been long working towards doing this, and that was part of his reason he staffed. MI5 has removed 400 spies from Great Britain alone. All that capital flowing in. It's basically just one ginormous bribe. House of Lords taken over by Russian spies. Then you get Donald Trump, who's not being held accountable. But the thing is, because of the way this personality trait works, the network is more important. The outside is more important. They can't do anything without the enablers, without the networks. Donald Trump's networks appears to be members of Congress, not just the ones who apparently were planning and showing who was who where in the Capitol, but more importantly, those persons who said there's video evidence of them actively participating, knowing whose supporters had stepped onto the hollow grounds of the People's House and then turned around and said, no, we can't get rid of them. And hoped the problem would go away. Because you were trying yourself to overturn the Constitution through the states' rights amendments or whatever that's going through the Supreme Court right now. State legislature theory, where basically the state's legislature, i.e., those who we can buy off and get into power, do what we tell them. Just turn over and tell them it's better to control them, right? And it removes the power for the people. But then that leads to more chaos because of what more power wants. More power wants always what it wants, more power. Then the fractures, and then everyone gets into their little fiefdoms. But this time each fiefdom has. That's why I always wanted to have their own little militia. That's why I bastardized the 11th Amendment, the Second Amendment, to being the 11th Amendment of the CSA as opposed to the United States Constitution. Because in the U.S. Constitution, the Second Amendment is pointing outwards. We are defending outwardly. But the CSA Constitution, removing of that comma, the right to bear arms, points it inwards towards, your neighbor. And that goes back to the slave patrols. Because they needed their arms to keep the livestock in check, right? So where we're at here in this moment is you have the absolute moment to take over and pass, get voting rights. Because if you don't have voting rights by 2024, it's over. It's gonna, by the time these states are just gonna start rolling it up. You know, you got to pass voting rights. You got to impeach these people, and the only way you can do that is you got to show up. And if Jay Z and the gangbangers and whatever, oh well, we can't do. I'm gonna send a letter to the president today, sometime tonight or whatever. Say, hey, you guys used my ideas on your national strategy. You used a tactic to stop some people. That was McRaven. And then Jay Z and hip hop used Georgia to try to make, because I had written to Don about, okay, and so they figure, and then McRaven knew that they would do what they were going to do was going to get their ass handed to them in Georgia. If they had listened to what I said, they would have had Stacey Abrams would have had a better chance of winning. Can't blame black Americans. She didn't go out and reach out to the others. But being all black destroyed that, and they did that on purpose. So that way it can look like, well, what I said wasn't really what was working. Meanwhile, they can exploit on the national level my strategies and then say, oh, we weren't listening, it wasn't you. And you keep continue the gaslight. When the reality is you used mine over the national level. You used hip hop's, lost in Georgia except for Raphael Warnock, and you still owe me $200,000 just for the consulting fee using my likeness. But Jay Z and hip hop is all jealous and rather not and think someone's gonna go there and then go, okay, you're good. Now you did what we told you to do. Dude, it's you guys are the ones and more jealous of the fact of once I found out what the contract I have between Her Majesty and myself is worth. They just got jealous and they'd rather shoot off bite off, shit off their nose, whatever, spite their face. Would rather maintain being and then screw over the rest of the world and the globe. It's pride. That's all it is. It's silly pride. Not even true pride, actually. Mostly fear. Because pride would be like, yeah, this sucks, but we'll take care of it. We'll hold it down. We do what we got to do. This is fear. Democrats have to pay me, or they say that the gangs are in charge of the Democratic Party, which means you lose any of the right-leaning independents, and you lose sober-minded Republicans, and not the white nationalists and fascists. Because you're going to need them to force Congress to one call in Trump and Mike Pence to sit in front of Congress, which reasserts Congress's authority within the Constitution as a co-equal branch of the government. It holds Trump to an account to the people, because right now he thinks he's above the law, and right technically he is above the law. He hasn't been held. It is not up for the executive branch to be holding the president to account. It's up to the legislative branch to hold the president to the account, and the judicial branch to make sure that yeah, okay, yeah, what they're doing is good to go for holding the president to the account. And under the terms of inherent contempt, they do not. Congress does not need the executive branch. The Congress on its own as a co-equal branch can literally arrest the former president and make him show up to testify in front of it. and it needs to be done, and time is running out. So Black America could still be arguing with me. Working class America could be upset with me. This is your chance. This is the chance of a generation. Because it's not. 2024 is, that's not. Yeah, it'll be so gerrymandered. This is their Alamo. Because I know if they win this point, they win it all. And as far as dealing with King Charles, as far as succession, Her Majesty left. When I said she homdy domdied, my thinking is, of course, she just said legally, whatever. She did not do that. I was granted something, but it was enough within the rights of succession to make me a threat to you, to make me a threat to be within line of succession, to be able to legally challenge for the throne. And that is the part you keep trying. King Charles keeps trying to not follow through, therefore breaking precedent. Now the question is about the mechanics, since now it's known that this gift of mine it's taught by myself. It is my part of my life's work, and been able to do it before any associations with others. So therefore, it's technically a gift of use of the mental realm from me and my intellectual property. So looking at as they were sitting there going through the with to, took a second to remind myself of this. So by oh yes, with the mechanics, since they would he's the acknowledgement would be he only went once, who was only free and accepted, but did not learn any of anything. So therefore, it's correct. Therefore, he hasn't paid any dues. He has not. He has not. That's fine. But then comes the question: if you say that I am not, then that comes since you are built upon Parliament through an act of Parliament by making the attack on. He's then therefore you're saying that he controls you instead of being independent of him or the throne, but for the behest of the realm. But either or, by not upholding the former sovereign's decree, he is believing he is above the Magna Carta, and he is also believing he's above Parliament. Which then means he is, by the act of succession, which I have to look back at what it was exact wording. He's not looking out and doing the best for the throne, the crown, God, the Commonwealth, and the country, the family, the royal family, and the country in general and in particular. Yes, to him, I am Deadpool, without a doubt. The merc with the mouth was annoyingly hard to kill. Yes, it is. I do understand that. I quite agree with it, actually. Uh, but Everyone wants to gaslight me. I've gone through hell for the last couple of years. I have no total. I have an iota of what's going on, but not a full iota, and I know it. I can sense it. But I went there once. Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. So, you know, my, I'm not into it. It's none of this. Well, no, no. That's a power play. That gives those who should not have the power, and since they enter into that, that's how their belief and behavior systems will be. I've seen this before. It's the way of saying, well, I did, but I didn't know. That's not how this works. 14th Amendment needs to be used, and we only have 2 weeks. What is it? Today is the 13th. Then you have Christmas. New Congress ends on Monday in less than 3 weeks. 19, 20, 3 weeks exactly. A little under 3 weeks. 20 days. Minus Christmas, which is on a Sunday. Greatest chance in history, in generations. All you have to do is acknowledge me. Isn't that crazy? See, King Charles doesn't have a choice, actually. That's what I was getting to. He has to, even if this passes, he has to acknowledge. Yeah. Now he's trying to make it past the first, so the time to be able to stop the overthrow of the Constitution and the overthrow of Parliament is passed. But I need to get to DC to physically, hold through to my First Amendment right to petition my government upon its behavior in my name. Well, at the same time, I'm supposed to be able. I've been granted the authority and the annoyance to drive just simply by my existence, and the fact I will be running one of the most prestigious private funds, private placement, private funds on the planet. The mandate to put all my crazy ideas and the crazy ideas of the royal family into play, while figuring out who was trying to overthrow the throne and the Constitution in the EU. Which one of these families thought they were above the law? Now, of course, we would never arrest them, but we would hit them definitely. They have the option of not, you know, giving to Her Majesty's funds. But it would, we would say nothing. It is a free country. Great Britain, it is. It is a free country in the United States. Of course, we would never, ever, ever trample on somebody's freedom's rights. But it would be to their best interest. No, what would it be? We would not know. Definitely for a. Anyways, we continuing on. We have the what we believe in as far as what needs to be done. Right now, Putin has a Prigozhin problem. we have a Paul Whelan problem. We have a Marine. Now, of course, Bogosian is going through Bakhmut, putting as much pressure onto that part of the central part of the salient. It has a salt mine there, apparently, since ancient times. It could be useful for see if the sodium batteries. We don't know if they can be explosive though, but we'll see what happens if there's use for that. But however, they're just waylaying this town. I do think Pope Bogosian could needs to go see the front lines. See how things are doing. It'd be a shame if he accidentally didn't return. But maybe Putin wants to keep his little lapdog in place. Who's definitely not his lapdog, but he definitely has a problem. But he might be a little more aware of. Besides him and Dugin, was it Dugin? Yeah, is it the Putin's brain? Yeah, the philosopher, the little Rasputin guy. Walls are closing in. We'll see if he becomes more desperate. Saw that they're going to. Looks like they're going to use the Reaper as opposed to possibly a detuned Reaper. All right, if the Air Force is good with it, let's see what happens. Should be very interesting. Let's see how it's because especially because getting close air support, hitting parts behind the third echelon is shooting the first and second echelons if they retreat. If that part of the echelon's having problems just staying alive itself, that gives a pouring spot. So there's a possibility by breaking that third echelon. Um, Hold on a second. Now that's unusual. Well, I'll come back to this and I'll bind them together.